It may have taken 5 days, a wildly funky schedule, and a whole lot of frustration across the board, but Cam Smith a whole lot richer right now after his win at the Players, and that makes us here at the Heat Check a whole lot happier as we are a pro Cam Smith podcast, meaning we head into the Valspar Championship despite recording a day later than usual in a good mood. So we're going to carry that good mood, carry those good vibes into the Valspar, try to win some money this week in PGA DFS. Welcome on into the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast, powered by numberFire. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com. Joined here, as always, by Brandon Gadula. He is the managing editor of numberFire.com. Brandon, I have a question for you. Now, Cam Smith is a guy we typically are higher on than consensus. And we talked about him a lot last week. You bet him. He was my win pick. We talked about him a lot for DFS. My question is, can we consider him our guy, or is he too good for that? Because I'm leaning towards thinking that he's too good.
He's way too good. Yeah, he's
disappointing.
He's phenomenal. He's going to be a very popular pick at Augusta here in a few weeks. He's got the game for that. At Augusta, you can spray it off the tee, which I know you had a lot going on this weekend with some FanDuel obligations.
Several things. Yes.
Cam got there. He made a ton of birdies. I think he had 8 in the last round. It was phenomenal, but a little errant off the tee. But he's gained some distance, so I think that he's going to be someone that we bring up plenty when it comes to Masters Week. And yes, pulling up the odds on FanDuel Sportsbook, Cam Smith 14-1 to win the Masters, same as Rory McIlroy, and trailing only Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Colin Morikawa, Jon Rahm. So yeah, I think Cam is
been priced out of us.
Yeah,
dang, that's
Cam's
really upsetting. On. Also, wasn't he like 34-1 last week?
He was.
And now he's 14-1 to win the Masters. I know that it's like a different setup, it's a different field, et cetera, but like, how things changed there. But good for Cam Smith. Happy for him for sure. Excited to see him break out and excited to benefit from a win pick perspective too. And you won your bet. So hey, we're happy across the board here. So let's again translate that to the Valspar Championship, which is this week coming up tomorrow. Recording on Wednesday here because we wanted to let all the withdrawals hit after the Players first. But let's talk about it now to get you set for tomorrow's event. It is at Innisbrook Resort, the Copperhead course, of course. It is 7,340 yards and a par 71. Of course, no course data from 2020 because this was one of the events canceled due to COVID-19. Last year's event was at a different point in the schedule because it was between the Masters and the PGA Championship. And that obviously is something that does matter in terms of field strength, et cetera, et cetera. It was right after the Players in 2019, but between a WGC event and the Arnold Palmer Invitational back in 2018. So all around the calendar, all the different points in the calendar, different situations in the calendar. Keep that in mind looking back at course data. There are 144 golfers in the field for this week. The top 65 plus ties will make the cut after the first 2 rounds. So, Brandon, we know what to expect from Copperhead course. Some really difficult holes towards the back end of the 18 here. What do you see when you dig into the data from this course in terms of what we should look for within our golfers?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, last year this event was held in early May. It's back in March, which is more typical. So it's really been, I would struggle with this whenever there's been what should have been 2 years. It's, I guess, if you add that full year in, it's been like 3 years since we've seen, like, till today, 3 years since we've seen like a Valspar in March. So it's been a while. That can throw a wrench into course history, things like that. But again, you and I don't really look too much at course history, and not one of the most predictive weeks with course history anyway. So don't get too caught up in those numbers for this week. But yeah, lots of bunkers, lots of dog legs. It can play tough. It's probably going to play pretty tough relative to par. Last year, the winning score was 17 under. Before that, it was 8 under, 10 under, 14 under, 7 under. So that's the kind of scoring we're probably going to return to this week. But I mean, these guys are just getting so much better that maybe they'll take a 17 under again anyway. But looking at cut lines that might be flirting with even, maybe a little bit over par. So it's going to be one of those. It's not going to be a birdie fest again. And the reason for that, part of the reason for that is just it's a tough course with lots of bunkers to get into. I think I saw, and I think I see it phrased as like 17 of the 18 holes have some sort of dog leg, which is why you'll see driving accuracy pop up as a key stat. That's not going to be a key stat for me this week, which I'll get into in just a second. But Data Golf, they have this course table tool where it shows difficulty in terms of picking up strokes in different categories. And they have this as the third toughest course on tour to gain strokes off the tee, and it's 17th in approach out of like 76. So we're going to see driving accuracy pop up as something that's important. But I think if you can gain strokes off the tee, cutting corners wherever you can, but still being able to put it, on the planet whenever you need to, is going to be key. And just overall, gaining fairways, gaining greens, it's going to be at a premium this week. And if you look at some past winners recently, see a mix of good putters with Sam Burns, who I definitely consider as a good putter, Adam Hadwin, Jordan Spieth, but also great ball strikers, which also Sam Burns, Paul Casey twice, Kevin Streelman. So there's not really one archetype of golfer who wins. And so what all this sort of boils down to is we're looking at let's call it a 10 under score to win. Bunkers, placement off the tee, distance whenever you can, irons, getting up and down. It's an all-around test. That's why for me, my key stats are going to include all 4 of the strokes gained categories, but not necessarily just strokes gained total. You can break them out and you can weight them differently, which is what I'm doing. So I rank them strokes gained approach, strokes gained off the tee, strokes gained putting, birdie or better rate for whenever you can find them, and strokes gained around the green. I think they all matter this week, and I'm going to make sure that I'm not getting too careless with some guys who have big red flags in their games.
I think the key word you said there in terms of the off the tee stuff was placement, because that can mean several different things, which leads me to also going with strokes gained off the tee versus distance or accuracy, because I want guys who can make things work. And it's similar to last week in that regard, where I just want them to be able to like make it work. I don't care what route they go to making it work, just do it. And I think that when you look at past guys who have done well here, I think that taking that approach is going to lead you down a better path. Because like Sam Burns is not accurate. Finished 124th in accuracy last year, 33rd in distance, but 44th off the tee. Got Victor Hovland last year, who did well. He's not a standout in either department, but is good in terms of strokes gained off the tee. Abraham Answer did well too. So to me, I think that skewing towards strokes gained off the tee versus one or the other is the way to go here because of the stuff you discussed. I also do have around the green play in mind, not just because of the unique challenges here, but because it's a tough course. And I think at a tough course, and you alluded to this too, I'm okay valuing in that more because it gives me more paths to gaining strokes, but also fewer paths to collapse, I guess I don't really care about floor, but I don't know the right way to phrase it. I don't care about floor, but I want fewer routes to disrupting a potential ceiling, if that makes sense. And like, if you're losing strokes off or around the green, you're giving me one more path to disrupting a really good ball striking week or really good putting week, stuff like that. Is that a proper way to explain that? Because it might have sounded really stupid.
So I'll give you an example. This week we have, I think to me, the top 2 plays would be Justin Thomas and Victor Hovland. They are either first or second in strokes gained off the tee and approach. Thomas is third, sorry. Over the past year with my adjustments, Thomas 93rd percentile and adjusted around the green. Hovland 3rd percentile adjusted around the green. I'm just going to take that as the tiebreaker and go with JT this week. So I think that's really, I want to love Hovland more, and I think I still love him more than I probably should with the issues maybe around the green. But in that instance, I can just go to JT or Morikawa or Xander. These guys all with significantly better short games than Victor Hovland.
I'd agree with phrasing it that way for sure. We'll talk about golfers who have done well at Copperhead in just 1 second. But first, it is that time of year. It is March, which means FanDuel is giving you a chance to bet on NCAA tournament games this year risk-free. Presenting FanDuel's risk-free bet, The Bracket. Here's what you do. Log into the FanDuel Sportsbook and opt into the promotion. Then place a wager on any college basketball game with odds of -200 or longer. If your bet loses, You'll receive a refund and site credit. Head over to the FanDuel Sportsbook today and place a wager on any 2022 NCAA men's basketball game today. Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, permitted parishes only. Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, or West Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit FanDuel.com/RG. In Arizona, 100-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. In Connecticut, 1-888-789-7777. Visit ccpg.org/chat. In Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. In Louisiana, 1-877-770-STOP. In New York, 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Tennessee, call the red line at 1-800-889-979. Or in West Virginia, visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Let's dive in here to past history at Innisbrook Resort at the Copperhead course and talk about some golfers who have long history here, but also good history. And Louie Westhazen is one of the guys who has both. He's been here plenty of times, but also has done well in those trips. So, Brandon, what are you seeing with Louie in terms of his history here, specifically what he's done here most recently?
Yeah, so he's got a lot of missed cuts in here. He finished, 20th and then 3 straight missed cuts. So figure that one out in terms of wanting some course history, like what matters there, right? Like 20th, he's figured it out in his debut, and then 3 straight missed cuts. That was just a fluke. And then he comes back with the 7th, 16th, 2nd, and 8th. So, like, look, course history is at best a part of the puzzle, usually a small part of the puzzle. But he's been golfing pretty well lately as well. And in 2022, he has a 14th at the WM Phoenix Open, 30th at the Honda, 42nd at the Players. And, like, those aren't all top 10s, but making cuts, finishing, playing well. The Players, I think, just making the cut was enough with how all of that went down. And statistically, he is just phenomenal. That's why my model always likes him more than the betting odds. The betting odds like him a little bit less because he doesn't close out the wins. But at a salary of $11,400, we don't necessarily need that win. Although at odds of 24-1, I like him for a win. Again, but I think Louie is kind of a standout here at that salary. Any thoughts on him?
Yeah, because I think that when you look at what he's done recently, you mentioned that it's like making cuts and being fine. That is without his irons being like fully on. But we know that like in the long run, Louie is a very good iron player. So I think we talked about that with Rory previously, where it's like, okay, he's doing well in the other categories. If he can re-add a component of his game where he's typically very good, there's a lot of upside that's potentially untapped there. So I think at 11.4, he is undersalaried, I would say. And I think that if we're like ranking out these guys, like ranking out options at the top end, I think I'd probably have him a little bit lower than I think that I have him a bit higher than where he's currently ranked. So Louie to me, I'm not
lower in terms of salary.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thank you. I would say to me, the only question I have is I'm probably gonna have a lot of JT this week. And if I go JT, can I fit in Louie at 11.4 as well? I think yes, but there will be some inclination in my head to dip down a bit lower for my second golfer. I think that if I don't go JT or Hovland, I'd be okay having Louie be my top guy, or maybe going like Louie with someone else in this range. But I think there is a guy at $8,300 who I like, and that might change the equation a bit, Pat Perez.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So like, I think that could change the equation a bit, but it is a little bit top heavy to go JT plus Louie, but that's the only downside I see with him right now.
Yeah, so JT Louie start gives you 91.25 on FanDuel. I think that's doable. I don't love it. The win equity for me kind of culminates with JT and Hovland. I have them about 7.5% even to win. It's kind of reflected in the win odds too. I could see that. The only thing I want to advocate probably against is like a JT Louie answer. I don't know who's like, I don't want 3 golfers below like 8,800.
Right. I think the 88 range is fine, but I don't want to have a ton of stock there effectively. Yeah. So that's why I get a little bit uncomfortable. But like if I go with like, for a single entry type thing, and I'm not like building every lineup this way, but like a JT Louie Pat Perez start, that could work. That I'm okay with, but I don't want to make that like my default build. So just being conscious of like not getting overextended on value plays is the only thing I have against Louie, because I plan on being pretty high on JT. But otherwise, I think that his profile is really nice. Let's move on now to Jason Kokrak. The Coke baby, been good at Copperhead for a while now. His first top 10 came back in 2015. Finished 7th in that one. He was 14th the year before that. The past 3 trips have been good too. Kokrak 13th last year, 2nd in 2019, and 8th in 2018. And 2 of those came despite below average around the green play. We talked about valuing that, and Kokrak is not, stellar there necessarily. And he hasn't been spectacular recently, but did win the Houston Open back in the fall. He has not missed a cut since the Shriner, so solid but unspectacular. The problem is that a lot of it has been fueled by good putting rather than the typical ball striking for Kokrak. So he's 10-6. That is not low. What is your read on Kokrak for this week?
He's fine, but I prefer a name above him and just below him as well, with Matt Fitzpatrick and Tommy Fleetwood. Going across the pond for those. So it's less to do with Kokrak and more to do with the fact that I would rather just play Fleetwood or Fitzpatrick at setups that I think maybe favor them a little bit more. So could I venture a head-to-head bet?
No, okay. With neither. I think that with Kokrak, like my concern is the last thing I mentioned there, where it's like fueled by putting, and that seems kind of fluky. His ball striking has not been typical Kokrak-y, so that's my like concern there. So I would like both those guys more too, and feel pretty okay with that personally. I also like Shane Lowry's 10-8. I might go Shane Lowry above Kokrak too. So like I think he's worth mentioning here because of the good course history, but it's not enough to overcome the recent form for me with Kokrak. So I'm very okay being shy there. And I mentioned Pat Perez as being a guy who could potentially balance out a Louie plus JT start. Your next person in the course history section is Charles Schwartzel, who is minimum salary, $7,000 on FanDuel. Sell me on this. Talk me into Charles Schwartzel so I can feel better about a JT Louie start.
I don't know if that's where the conclusion will wind up, but I think that it would be a disservice not to talk about someone minimum salary with, who is the term that everyone likes to throw around as course horse. So let's take a look, right? Why not? Former winner here in 2016, followed that up with a 6th, 49th missed cut, and 21st. If you get a 21st or a 6th or even a 49th from someone minimum salary and you really kind of hit on your other 5, that is valuable. However, if there's not a modicum of recent form, can you trust that he's going to finish 49th even? Because he's missed 5 straight cuts in 2022. Over the past 3 months, Data Golf has him ranked 116th in this field in adjusted tee to green play, which they call true tee to green, and 133rd overall. Usually, we just straight up ignore golfers who have flashed at a course but are not in good form. I think, though, the form at Copperhead is enough to bring him up. The salary, he's not even 8,000, he's 7,000. Now he was golfing a lot better entering those past events than he is now, so that's a very important thing to look for when looking at course history. But you want some studs this week. Can you consider a minimum salary Charles?
So he's played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 events since the start of the new PGA Tour season, so the end of FedEx Cup playoffs. He has had a positive total strokes gain number on Data Golf, adjusted for field strength, twice. And that was in the Abu Dhabi HSBC and the Worldwide Technology Championship. Not even recent. Like, no. I need like something in the recent form to get even a little bit drawn in, and I don't see anything there. So I'm not. Are you going that way or no?
I He's got good iron play. He's 53rd percentile over the past year if you adjust for recency and field strength. Pretty good. I mean, even better around the green play. The putting's bad. The off the tee's bad. I think maybe if I were, let's say if I'm someone who's going to multi-entry, I'd consider it. But again, the caveat there is there's really no one else you can consider down there. So you're going to have to build some lineups that are unique to having one golfer at a minimum salary. So I'm probably not going to get there. But I do think other people might have a question with Schwartzel being minimum salary and, having played well here recently.
Yeah, I'll pass, but maybe someone else will talk themselves into it. And if it goes well, you can yell at me on Twitter for not believing in old Charles.
Just waiting for the Charles top 10 now.
Yeah, it's fine. I've done this before. It's okay. I've had that happen plenty of times. Let's talk with Bubba Watson here. He's $9,900. Bubba is a guy who seems like he is a bit more course history dependent, or he really excels in some spots, does not excel some others. Could bode well for this week because he does do well at Copperhead typically. Watson has a pair of top fives here. He was third in 2010 and then fourth in 2019. Followed that up last year with a 13th place finish where he was at least slightly positive in each of the strokes gained categories. Watson missed the cut at the Genesis thanks to some poor approach play, and he struggled with the players, but we know that could have been a result of weather. Obviously, I'm kind of okay downplaying a lot of the players for fairly obvious reasons, but Watson was second at the Saudi International. That's not too long ago. The form is mixed, but with upside is the way I'd phrase it. So he's $9,900. How are you feeling about Bubba this week?
Well, for a minute, it looked like Bubba was going to be a bit of a threat, posting a round 268 at the Players, and then followed that up with the 78-76, which, is a little bit tough to see. But, you mentioned Bubba is someone we talk about. Bubba and Brooks, basically, we just kind of throw the data out for largely. It hasn't really been a good process, I guess.
I mean, Brooks was good until things got absurd on whatever day, Friday or Saturday, and he's putting off the greens and stuff like that. It was fine for a bit.
Yeah, I think for me, I have enough other names right around that range that I'm not going to get to Bubba necessarily. Although, again, so many dog legs here, it would make sense. Nobody moves the ball more than Bubba does. I think I'm going to prefer Alexander Noren at 98, Russell Knox at 98 as well. And I think that's enough where there's another name at 10.5 I like, Tommy Fleetwood. I'd love to get back up to. I know 600 is asking a lot, but I think that with those names that I kind of want to prioritize, I'm probably not going to get to Bubba myself, although I will root for Bubba. He's got some of the sickest shoe game on the PGA Tour. I see the case for it. Yeah. I just don't know necessarily if I'm getting there myself.
I think I'll be in this range a decent amount because I think my default construction will be JT and then Matt Fitzpatrick, Tommy Fleetwood, somewhere in that high 10,000 range. And that will allow me to get back into this upper 9,000 range. I like Noren more, and we'll have Noren above Bubba for sure. I do agree with you that Knox is interesting as well. So I'm not opposed to that. So I think that there are other guys in this range, and Bubba will not be first, but I might be here enough where I still get to him despite that.
Yeah. If I go like Louie, Joel Damon, who's 88, I get 99.50. One more in the low 9,000s, and I can just live here. So I think maybe, again, I'm not out on Bubba. I just don't know if he's like a top 4 play in this range, or he's probably fourth if I can consider Fleetwood here. So yeah, Bubba week.
So let's talk about Fleetwood. He is in the current form section because Fleetwood is trending back up after a pretty long lull in his performance. But Fleetwood 10.5 makes sense. Some good finishes recently. What are you seeing with the data in Fleetwood over the past couple events?
Yeah, so with the data, it's trending up. He's in 2022 in his past 5, he has 4 top 25 finishes and 1 missed cut when the irons just sort of evaporated for him. And again, I'm usually lower on Fleetwood than consensus, I think, just because I find him to be a little bit more dependent on his short game long term than the ball striking. But that can work this week, especially with the bunkering, getting up, saving par, getting up and down. And his salary of $10,500 is also a really nice discount if you think that he is, not that far from, let's say, a Shane Lowry, an Abe Answer, or something like that. Maybe a Tyrrell Hatton. I have a gap there, but still, it's a good salary. He hasn't played here before, which is a little bit of a concern, but I think there's definitely a case to be made with Fleetwood. I know he's a popular player. I know he flashed at the Players for the first round. You mentioned he had a lull in the data, but I've heard him on podcasts, specifically the No Laying Up podcast, talking about how the COVID layoff hit a lot of the European guys harder. He didn't really get to play a whole lot, so it makes sense that there was a lull and trending back up. So maybe it is time to buy in a little bit early, because I think that we haven't missed that window at 10-5. So I like Fleetwood a lot this week. What are your thoughts?
So my assumption always with Fleetwood is kind of what you were talking about, where he's a very popular player, which tends to lead to inflated roster rates. And I kind of thought that, Fleetwood, like you said, he was on TV a bit this past week. Maybe that will lead to increased some steam. It's not. He has one tag on FanShare, which is fewer than Paul Casey, who withdrew. Also, shocker, Paul Casey withdrew from the only event he's allowed to win, but whatever. Weird choice, bud.
Well, he got that check last week at the Players. I think it's all right.
Where Paul Casey cares about money? Weird. Breaking news here on the Heat Check. Fleetwood is getting no buzz. My boy Matt Fitzpatrick is. He's back to being my boy, by the way. Now that I'm no longer rooting against him versus Sungjae. I think with that being the case, where there's such a massive gap between the two, Kokrak, Answer also getting buzz. Everyone in this range except for Fleetwood is getting buzz. So I would say single entry tournament, Fleetwood might be one of the first guys I put in. Is that weird?
The buzzless Tommy. I like that.
As long as it's not a buzz cut. I'm not generally
he did shave his.
Yeah.
He shaved and people didn't like it. Although my hair's not that far from Tommy Fleetwood's at this point.
You could do a Cam Smith if you tried.
My wife would not like that.
Just do it temporarily, take a picture, and then just get rid of it. Get rid of the rest.
I don't know how that would go over.
I need this. Please. I don't have much. Let me have this one thing. Just one mullet pick of Brandon. That's all I ask for. It's not that much. But I think that for single entry tournaments, a JT plus Fleetwood start allows me to get two guys I feel very good about, avoid what could be more popular players in that second range, and still keep things fairly balanced. You got 9,350 left per golfer if you go those two. If I go Perez as well, then I'm just basically living in that high 9,000 range, which I would like to do this week. So I think to me, Fleetwood very attractive for single entry tournaments. He's attractive in general, even without the beard. But I think for a single entry tournament specifically, he's a really good play this week.
Yeah, and we can leave it at that. But we'll circle back to the top of this field because the tags are not going the way that I kind of thought they might go.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that whenever we talk about the betting odds.
Okay, so let's move now to the second current form golfer and someone you mentioned before, someone I like a lot this week in Alex Noren, both. Let's just go with it.
Spreadsheet. He's a spreadsheet ruiner.
He is. But Noren is a well-balanced golfer. He finished 21st year last year, so he knows the course, and his form seems to be on the rise. Noren has been to 7 events since the new year. He has finished top 6 in 2 of those, and both those have come across his past 4 events. Noren was 6th at Scottsdale. I'm just going to avoid the WM waste management thing. I'm just going to say Scottsdale from now on. He was 6th in Scottsdale. He was 5th at the Honda Classic. He putted well in both those events, and that could be fluky, but the approach play at the Honda was really, really nice too. Noren has gained at least 3.5 on approach in 3 straight events. He is a good Bermuda putter, solid short game. So I like Noren a lot. I think he checks every box for me. What about for you?
Yeah, I'm in on Noren. Yeah. it seems like whenever I'm in on Noren, finally, it's not going well. But he's doing it with the approach play, and usually I'm trying to buy Noren at a course where like it's all about short game and just hoping that the ball striking is there. Usually you should be a little bit hesitant whenever you see the big deviation in ball striking from older golfers, and Noren's almost 40, but it's been a little bit consistent enough, and it's sort of growing week after week.
And it's not like it's like, oh, he gained 7 strokes. It's like consistently gaining like 2 to 3. And like that to me feels less fluky than if he's popping off for a 7-burger every now and then.
Yeah. So I think for me, Noren is one of the best plays of the week at salary. I wouldn't have been surprised if he were in like the low 10,000 range. So I think any savings we can get are going to go a long way, especially if your goal is to get back up to a second stud who we can probably say is like Tyrrell Hatton and above at 11.3. Sorry, Brooks. But like if that's your goal, I think that dropping down from Fleetwood to Noren is totally fine to do that.
Yeah, I think Noren will be probably in my head-to-head versus you, if I had to guess.
Most
He's
likely
in there as of right now. So I think that there is a good chance that does wind up happening. Let's move down to some value plays here. Starting with Martin Laird. Laird is $8,900. I kind of, gave away the game you were going to play here with the opening of this. But Martin Laird, 89. What draws you towards him?
Wait, what game?
You had in your notes a question, and I didn't want to give away the question.
Oh, well,
too late. Sorry.
I'll
play dumb. I'll play dumb. Hit me.
Okay, Jim, listen up.
Playing dumb is usually not that much of a stretch for me.
Jim, what if I told you that you could get the guy who ranks 9th in the field and adjusted tee to green over the past 3 months at a salary of $8,900? Would you be interested?
I would say, is Luke List not? I thought Luke List wasn't in this field this week. Did something change that I was not aware of?
Well, we have that with Martin Laird this week.
Oh, wow, crazy. Wow, I'm blown away.
I love the idea that I just went on with my script, not hearing what you said. He's 116th in putting in that span. But if you factor that in, he's still 30th in their true strokes gained over the past 3 months. That's still pretty good for that salary. The long-term putting, not good, but he can stripe it. Very accurate off the tee. I was trying to check this out, and then I got distracted because you said, I think he had big line movement.
Laird did?
No, he didn't. Martin Keimer did.
Oh.
That's what I was thinking of. So any thoughts on Laird?
Yeah, so Laird 89. When I was like doing my player picks yesterday, he was one of the guys I dug into because I mentioned this before. I think that 89 range is pretty good. You mentioned Joel Damon already. He's a guy in that range. We have Johnny Vegas at 89. We have Mito Pereira, 89. Laird 89 is there too. So I think this is actually a good range in terms of what you talk about a lot, where you have a lineup, duplicate it, plug in someone else with the same salary, and then plug in that one too. Mm-hmm. I think the 89 range is ripe for that approach because you have Laird, Pereira. You might not like Mito or like Johnny Vegas. Okay. But like, I think that range is very good for that. Damon as well. Mm-hmm. So to me, I feel like he's good enough to fit in that rotation. Would I rank him first in that range? Probably not. I think I'd probably go Vegas if forced to choose. Sounds like you'd probably go Damon in that range. But I would say that he's top 4 for sure, and top 4 in that range will be high enough to be my player pool for this week.
Yeah, I got Damon over Vegas. Head-to-head.
Let me find this quick.
I mean, historically, that I don't want to do that to my guy Joel Damon, but because I never win these.
No, I'll do that. Okay. I'm fine with that. I'd actually. Do you want to double down and do a Mito versus Damon too?
No, because Mito's someone else I like.
Okay, cool. So we just have Vegas versus Damon?
Yeah, FanDuel points straight up.
So does that mean that I'm rooting for him to be the day boy, or is it night boy? What is the thing again?
I'm not gonna entertain this.
I've seen that episode. You can't
Just
be mad
watch
at me
the
for
show.
like. I have. I've seen that episode. I just forget. It was like 3 years ago.
You want him to be the day man. I want him to be the day man. You want him to be the night man. You got me all mixed up with the boy.
I'm gonna go with
stuff.
Night Boy. I'm gonna go with that instead. Rooting for Night Boy, Joel Night Boy, to be. Although I'll probably have him too, so maybe I shouldn't root that much against him. But I'll root for Vegas anyway. Let's talk about Adam Hadwin. Hadwin is 94, so not a value play, but in a range that we might be in if we do decide to go with more of a top heavy approach with guys like Louie and JT in the same lineup. Hadwin coming off a top 10 of the players, largely aided by good approach play. The approach play was trending up before that too. Since January 1st, Hadwin has gained 1.2, 1.0 across 2 rounds, 3.5, 3.7, minus 2.6 in 2 rounds, and plus 4.2. So a lot of good numbers in there, some down spots for sure, but had some spikes. Hadwin still not great off the tee, but he's pretty respectable elsewhere. Is that enough to draw you in on Adam Hadwin here at $9,400?
I almost wrote up Hadwin in the course history section because he has some interesting stuff. Former winner here. He followed that up with the 12th, but overall, just 3 made cuts out of 6 tries. So I thought that was intriguing. But Hadwin also is a player pick for me. So I think he's a really good fit here at a really good salary. The irons have been there. His putting's been up and down, but he's coming in with 3 top 26 finishes in his past 4. And again, I don't really like to cite just finishes, but I will call them out if the data is good enough. And for the most part, when he's making the cuts and finishing well, it's from good iron play. So I'll take that.
And they're a good illustration of upside too, even if they're like imperfect. They can illustrate that, like, okay, he can have spike weeks in certain categories, like if it's for putting, but like,
like the only time you really don't want to look at just finishes is whenever you see someone just be terrible off the tee and or with approach and just gaining a bunch of like around the green and putting.
Yeah.
So, but I still try to like avoid that. Yeah.
I like Hadwin, and I'm broadly open to him. Would you do? I shouldn't do that. Never mind. Retract. Can I like delete all that?
Aaron Wise.
Then I had these visions in my head of like watching Shot Tracker and having like 6 shots with like the little yellow pins around the green. It's like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm gonna retract that. I'm not actually offering that head to head. So I thought about it, but I also thought about Lonzo. I don't like Lonzo too at 92. But I think I'll stay away. I think Hadwin's a pretty good option for this week. Let's dive into the bookmaker odds for this week over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where Justin Thomas and Victor Hovland pretty even. Thomas is 10-1, Hovland is 11-1. Colin Morikawa checks in at 12-1 with Dustin Johnson at 15. Sam Burns, he's back, and Xander Schauffele both 21-1. There is a group of 3 at 24-1 with Louie, Tyrrell Hatton, and Matt Fitzpatrick. Shane Lowry and Brooks Koepka are 29-1. Abraham Answer is 34-1, and Jason Kokrak rounds at the top group here at 36-1. So the betting odds, Brandon, are saying there's a tier of 4 at the top, and that tier is JT, it is Victor Hovland, Morikawa, and Dustin Johnson. Do you agree with the assertion of the betting odds that those 4 are a cut above the rest for this week, or no?
I don't know if I'd put DJ there. I honestly don't know if I'd put. So weird because I love Colin Morikawa and I wasn't that in. Like I liked him last week, but I didn't want to bet him at his odds.
Yeah, things got a little out of hand with the Morikawa love last week.
And this is another course where accuracy is something that will be discussed plenty,
but might not matter as much as perception.
Possibly. Which is why I said I'd circle back to this. But according to FanShareSports.com, Morikawa is so far the most talked about, most buzzed about stud, followed by Victor Hovland, and then there's kind of a drop to JT, and I'm having trouble with that.
Like why? Why is that occurring?
I think it's because Morikawa. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it's an accuracy heavy course statistically. He missed the cut, so he wasn't grinding things out on the weekend. But look, one of the things I still struggle with golf, because I come at this from a data perspective, and I'm trying to work on this more, but like shot shaping and stuff, because I think sometimes just certain courses fit certain players, and I don't know this stuff. But I was listening to the Shotgun Start podcast, and they were talking about how Colin Morikawa hits his irons better than anyone, but he hits them straight, and he's not really like a shot creator. And this course is just full of dog legs. So I'm not really that interested in Morikawa if I could just play JT instead, especially at maybe lower popularity like perception. So I hate to speak ill of Morikawa, but I think I'm just lower on him than most.
Yeah, I think I am too, in part because of that, but also in part because like I just like JT a lot. And I think that like I feel very comfortable putting JT above Morikawa, and if you'll give me him at a roster rate discount, I'm skeptical that happens because as you've researched, the betting favorite gets steamed up, the highest salary guy gets steamed up. JT checks both those boxes. So I think if anything, like the tag discrepancy indicates they'll be more even than they otherwise would. But that also, if you're going to give me them at even roster rates, I'll just take JT. If I'm not using roster rates as a tiebreaker there. So I think that to me, I think it's more JT Hovland tier 1, and I feel like JT is like half a step above Hovland as a result of the around the green play. So to me, I just like JT. I think that's the key takeaway here is I like Justin Thomas a lot this week.
Yeah, it's hard not to like him unless you think guys who were, in contention to some degree, who had to wait it out, who were playing until Monday, that you don't like them. That I think that's really the only case you can make against like JT Hovland this week.
Yeah.
DJ surged. I think DJ is going to get talked up because he had a 63 on Monday.
I have no idea what day is what. So
yeah, I
woke up this morning and was like, is it not Thursday? I was like very confused. I was like, golf events haven't locked yet. And I was like really confused and just disoriented across the board. I also didn't work Monday hardly at all outside of the bracket show. So like I should be thinking it's like Tuesday. And we have a golf podcast, but it feels like Thursday. It's a very weird week.
Yeah, I'm all out of sorts with that. But yeah, I have JT and Hovland in their own tier. I have Morikawa and probably DJ on the same tier behind that. I will say DJ shot that 63, but he's been just putting like crazy. The ball striking's not really been there. And despite not being a course idea, I'm pretty sure he's actually done pretty well here in the past, which is like it's enough. But I also don't want to write off someone like Xander. If I'm trying to get different, I think I like Xander. Yeah, DJ 48th last year, 6th the year or 2 years before that in 2019. Like I think I'm actually going to disagree with the betting odds right here.
Yep.
That's how I'd tier those top 4.
Okay. Which golfers' odds have shifted since things opened on Monday? I know there are a lot of withdrawals, so you have to sort through all that. But who has seen the biggest movement?
Well, these don't. I don't know when I pulled these. My notes say Monday, but that's just out of habit.
Was it before or after the Burgoon pontoon is added? Because that could shift everything.
This I think this was like Tuesday around 1.
So that was after Burgoon. Okay, that's all that matters.
JT was 11. He's now 10. Usually I'm more formulaic with this and pull at a certain time, but I didn't this week. Matt Fitzpatrick 28 to 24. Gary Woodland 70 to 46. Bubba Watson, Keegan Bradley 55 to 46. Adam Hadwin, Harold Varner 75 to 55. Kevin Kisner 75 to 65. Martin Keimer 190 to 90. Johnny Vegas, Mito Pereira 160 to 120.
Who is putting this much money on Martin Keimer? Why is it happening?
Well, if you look at his course form, in 2016 he missed the cut. In 2013 he missed the cut. In 2011 was 20th. In 2020
is doing a lot of work here. He's played one event since the start of the new year.
He was cut at the Honda. back in November 32nd at the DP World Tour Championship in Dubai. 13th, 34th. I don't know what's going on.
Okay, fair enough. Which lower salary golfers have odds stand out to you, including our boy Martin here?
Martin Keimer, apparently 90-1 at 8,200. So I don't know what's going on there. Kevin Streelman, Patton Kazire, Adam Svensson, Jonathan Vegas, Mito Pereira, and Martin Laird, all 120-1. That's the best you're going to do below 9,000 this week on FanDuel.
Kazire, I looked into, he is at $9,000. Good putter, obviously. He's had some okay finishes recently. The data's not bad. What's your read on Kazire? Should we put him in the Martin Laird, Mito Pereira consideration?
We could, or we could make him a player pick.
Man, I did not look at your player pick before recording today. I saw you had JT at the top, and I was like, cool, I don't need to worry anymore. I just cashed out at that point. So glad to hear it. And we'll talk about him later on. Weather for this week, thankfully brief. Two things of note. Winds will start low Friday and then steadily work their way up to around 12 miles per hour during the day. So there might be a slight edge for golfers with later Thursday tee times. It is not something that I would say is all that drastic, though. Winds will be high on Sunday, around 15 miles per hour, which is less than half of what they were this past weekend. So, a little bit windy and maybe a slight edge to those teeing off later Thursday, but overall, pretty straightforward for this week. Bless it. Let's move now to the player picks here for the Valspar Championship, starting off with the top tier. The top tier, it was a combination of top and upper. The topper tier on FanDuel. Who are you turning to there, Brandon?
I think it has to be JT. We have enough salary savers to get to JT if we want. I think again, it's down to JT and Hovland for me as the top guy, and they're both phenomenal ball strikers, basically best in the field if you include off the tee play. So that bumps down Colin Morikawa out of that discussion for me. Thomas has an edge in course history around the green play, bunker play. Hovland is significantly more accurate, but that's not enough. Give me JT as the top play this week. The only way I wouldn't play him in our head-to-head is if I try to start with Louie and go a little bit more balanced, but I think JT's probably a lock.
I agree. He's a lock for me as well. And the reasoning is very similar to what you mentioned, where the around the green play for him relative to most guys in the upper tier is pretty different. He's 22nd around the green the past 50 rounds per Fantasy National. And, not a good putter on Bermuda, but that's kind of the one thing he lacks. And he's still done well here despite that. He is the best golfer in the field, according to Data Golf's true strokes gained over the past 6 months and over the past calendar year. I'm fine letting it ride with JT as both a cash game lock and a tournament building block for this week. Well, who else do you like in this upper range as a high salaried player pick for this week?
Louie, but again, if I'm playing JT, I'd also go Fleetwood as my second guy, but I think Louie's really underrated here at 11.4. He's the best value in my model among guys with a salary of 10,000 or above. 88th percentile or better in all three adjusted tee to green stats, which for me accounts for field strength, but also recency. He's 86th percentile in putting in that same stat. That's phenomenal. 86th percentile on all four of those across the board with adjustments. It's hard to hate on that. Accurate off the tee. He's played well here in the past. Again, I love JT. I think Louie, you can make a case as your top play this week.
Yeah, I think Louie is worth the roster rate or the roster construction mess you kind of get yourself into to get him with JT. That's okay. I think that's fine for some spots. Okay with that. I think that you need to make sure you're getting a good golfer to have that top heavy of a lineup, but you are getting two really good golfers. So I think he's worth that. I think my typical approach, especially for a cash game, will be to jump down a bit more for my second guy. It would be Fleetwood for a single entry tournament, but I do like Matt Fitzpatrick for cash games. Let's talk about Fitzpatrick here. He missed the cut last week, but I'm willing to write that off. I think last week is wild. And Fitzpatrick actually leads the field in strokes gained off the tee over the past 50 rounds, according to Fantasy National. We know a lot of that or most of that is due to his excellent placement. He's also third in Bermuda putting the past 100 rounds. Before the missed cut last week, Fitzpatrick had finished 6th, 10th, and 9th since January 1st. And we're getting that for 10-7. I'll take that. And I think that for my head-to-head, Fitzpatrick will be in there. For a single entry tournament to be JT plus Fleetwood, for a cash game, and for multi-entry tournaments, I'll be in on Fitzpatrick there. What are your thoughts on Matty Fitz bounce back season?
Yeah, nothing bad to say. He's an other to consider for me in my helper on numberFire. I don't have a strong play between he and Fleetwood. I like both. I'd love to get both. Maybe mess around and see. Like I said, JT and Damon kind of goes a long way.
Let's do this here. Let's do Louie, Matty Fitz, and Timmy Fleets. 91.33. So that's actually very similar to the JT plus Louie start with 3 golfers left versus 4. So
JT plus Damon, not Louie.
Damon. No, 91.33 left. If you did JT plus Damon, you would 91.33.
I got you.
Yeah. So 91.33 left for the final 3 spots. I can make that work. I will make that work. I think that's a good build too. I agree.
Nice.
Let's move down.
Thank you for that. That was really nice of you.
Yeah, I know. It hurt. But anyway, here we are. Let's move to the mid-range. Who stands out to you there?
I'm going to be nice here again. We both have the same guy. I'm going to let you talk about him first.
Okay. That's Alex Noren. I'm just going to call him both from now on, because I think that's funnier. Trending up with the approach. The rest of his play always has been pretty good. 50th off the tee, 30th around the green the past 50 rounds. Also a good Bermuda putter. Noren has decent stats, solid form. Showed he can handle this course last year too. I think that makes him pretty easy sell at 98. What draws you towards him?
Everything. Good iron play, trending up. Great short game.
Let's ride.
I'll take that.
Let's ride. You mentioned Adam Hadwin was one of your player picks before. I talked about him in the form section. What puts you on Hadwin at $9,400?
He's got good irons largely lately. He's accurate. He's a good putter generally. It's been a little more up and down than you would expect from someone who putts as well as Hadwin generally does long term. But top 10 at TPC Sawgrass last week. That's again a third top 26 finish in his past 4 starts. The missed cut in there was with bad putting, and I think that Hadwin makes a lot of sense at 94. Whether I get back up to 94 is another question. But in this range, I think Hadwin stands out.
So you mentioned bad putting, which brings me to my second player pick, Aaron Wise. Wise is 95, really massively bad blip in February, and it led to some rough outings, but he's bounced back with the ball strike in the past 2 weeks, so I'm buying back in on Wise here. He's finished 17th and 50th the past 2 weeks, despite losing a combined 9.4 strokes putting in those. The putting will remain bad. That's not going to change, but will it remain that bad? The answer is yes, it could. It definitely could. But if he can just lose a couple fewer strokes, I'm not asking you to gain. I'm asking you to lose 1 stroke on the greens. Lose 1 stroke on the greens, Aaron Wise challenge. That is what I'm issuing here this week. Because if he can just not be as disastrous, he'll have upside. Wise, 15th in data golf's true strokes gained over the past 6 months, and that does include his hideous putting. So for 95, I'm in. I will not do a head-to-head versus Hadwin, and I won't use him in a cash game because of the putting. But I think for tournaments, I do think Wise grades out well. Where are you in Aaron Wise this week?
He's an other to consider for me as well. It's the putting that holds him back. Again, not the same caliber, but you kind of make the same case for JT. Like when JT doesn't do well, it's generally because of the putting. JT can be less terrible though than Aaron Wise. So would you take a Wise versus Varner bet? I like both, but would you do that?
Let me look first. Okay, HV3.
Same salary too. I'm not trying to take any equity from you out of your pocket.
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Man,
I think they're very similar.
Every time.
We only have one head-to-head, so I kind of need to get more action down here. Just a little itchy.
For anyone
NASCAR stuff this week is pretty bad, so I don't really have that as an out. I have Formula One, I guess. So, but I need something. So yeah, I'm in. I think that they're very even. I probably shouldn't have done it, but like whatever, I don't care.
I like both of them. I
Yeah.
shouldn't
Okay.
even have proposed it, but that does mean that Wise will do better than Varner because I get
So you're
stomped in
saying it
these.
was wise of me to do a head-to-head bet on him.
So my first low salary play for this week is
Fair enough. Just keep going. Because if you had asked me to lead in, I would have done the desire for Kazire bit, and I'm just gonna I don't want to make you quit. Making you transition off of me is fine. Making you quit seems a bit too far.
I like Kazire. You asked me about him before. He's on the upswing. 17th in this field in true strokes gained tee to green over the past 3 months, with a respectable top 40 mark in putting. Made 3 or 4 cuts at Copperhead in his career. T22 last week as well.
Yeah, I think Kazire is very interesting, and I'm definitely in on him in terms of that rotation we discussed before with the high 8,000 guys. If I want to get it more top heavy, one guy I'd also included in there is Jonathan Vegas. Did we do a Vegas head to head or no? No, we did.
We did. I have Damon. You have Vegas.
Oh yeah, okay. So I'm on Vegas. Okay, I can talk about him good and feel good about him. Past month for Vegas, underwhelming.
I need to trick you into betting against one of your player picks.
I never remember what my things are. I didn't remember that I picked Cam Smith. I kind of vaguely remembered thinking his betting odds were too long, but I had message you and be like, hey, did I do this? Or I black out at the end of podcast. Anyway, Vegas. He has been 55th, 42nd in cut the past 3. And it's not all due to short game, which is kind of concerning, but he's $8,900. That seems too low to me. Vegas ranks 3rd off the tee, 16th in approach the past 50 rounds. We know he's not a great putter, but Bermuda is his least bad surface. So I'll take that. And I can live with him at such a low salary. So Vegas to me, pretty fun option 89. You had Damon as a head-to-head bet. What put you on Damon over Vegas?
Better.
Just better. That's a whole analysis.
Better.
Damon better. No, this is
Patrick.
Patrick.
Comes down to, even though he's really not. More accuracy. Although, more accuracy for me. Good ball strikers, both, but I think I worry a little bit less about the course fit for Damon.
Imagine betting against Vegas during the opening week of the NCAA tournament. It just seems wrong. I don't know. Just saying. Poor form by you. Anything else you want on Damon or Vegas?
Better.
My second low salary guy is Pat Perez, a guy we had mentioned before.
Well, okay, so the reason you asked me is because Damon was my second player pick. I thought you were just referring to specifically.
Oh, no. That was my transition into it. I didn't actually say he was your second player pick, but yeah.
Okay, that's why I was like,
better.
Yeah.
That's actually all your notes say.
Better.
Better.
Golf better.
Night boy better.
That's from Brink. I hope you got that one.
Skate better. I didn't, but now I do. Okay. All right. I'm down for any Brink reference. The dad in that movie grills brats, and therefore I have had an undying affinity for that movie ever since. I think that's the best scene in cinematic history, where the dad is grilling brats. None your business. That's who my second player pick is. None your business.
I'm gonna clip that.
What? Me breaking down film?
No, just like you said, my favorite scene in cinematic history is a dad grilling brats.
Yeah, man. Let's party. I grew up in the Midwest. Love a good brat. Find me a better scene. I dare you. You can't. None your business.
I think skate better is
people who aren't iconic. Between the ages of 27 and 32 have no idea what movie we're talking about right now. It's on Disney Plus. You should go check it out. It's great.
Well,
Phantom of the Megaplex, also S tier Disney original movie.
Is it though? I mean,
yes, I rewatched it recently because why not? Phantom of the Megaplex S tier, Brink S tier. Everything else is I don't know. I don't remember most of them, but those two were elite.
Yeah, I'm gonna refrain with any Disney movie takes till I've rewatched them. But I think Brink would hold up.
It would. As does Phantom of the Megaplex, guaranteed. I've never had a bad take about a movie. Just throwing that out there. Also, Rush Hour is better than
Are
Lord of the
there
Rings.
brats being cooked in Phantom of the Megaplex?
I don't recall, but it wouldn't shock me. So I'm not going to rule it out. There's a giant inflatable dinosaur, if that counts.
I know we're off the rails, but it's the end of the show.
Yeah.
Jim
No
rarely
one's listening anymore. Who cares?
Jim rarely, I guess, unless they're waiting for win picks, but Jim rarely takes my like television suggestions and actually
I watched
them.
like 2 seasons of Community. I watched all The Wire. So like I do take your recommendations.
It's rare and sunny, but I'm just gonna tell you there's a scene of a dad cooking.
I watched White Collar because of you.
Huh, well, that's
and
cool.
I liked White Collar and The Wire a lot, and I liked what I watched Community. I just lost motivation.
Okay, well, whenever I want you to watch something next, I'm gonna say that there's a scene of a dad cooking brats. You just have to wait for it.
I'm in. Sign me up. Neil Caffrey grilling brats, best show of all time.
I mean, Peter Burke would be the one grilling if we're trying to keep the analogy going, but
nah, Neil's a secret brat guy, closet brat guy. Just saying. Anything else on Damon for you?
No, let's do win picks. Unless you have someone else.
I just want to talk about Perez. So
okay.
Perez 83, rough swing season for him, but better since January 1st. He's made 5 of the past 6 cuts. 2 of those were top 10s at the Farmers and the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. A lot of that has been due to the short game, but over a larger sample, Perez 26 in approach. So he does some other stuff pretty well too. The off the tee play will be bad, and that's why he's 83, I would guess. But he does a lot for a low salary. What's your read on Perez at 83?
He's got like the ideal sort of game fit for the course with just sort of being accurate. He's made 5 of 6 cuts, including 4 straight at Copperhead. I think he's very much in the conversation. Just someone who I don't like to get overexposed to. And that honestly applies for almost anyone below 8,500 always. Just kind of a week where I don't want to say like I'm going to build around Pat Perez and like that. Just it's not the kind of week for me to do that.
You use Pat Perez
tough week
in DFS, and then you bet Sergio Perez to do something in Bahrain. That's the name stack of this week. Just throwing that out there. If you need the optimal name stack, I'm just giving it to you, and you're welcome. Let's finish up here with the win picks for the Valspar Championship based on the current odds over at FanDuel Sportsbook, which I've closed because I was checking to see where Pierre Gasly was in Formula One to see if we can get some good old CLV on him. I'm distracted. Let's go back to golf. Okay. Based on the current odds, Brandon, where are you turning right now?
Current odds, definitely Louie at 24.
Okay.
And it's a little bit. Where's he now? Where is he now? Did he move? Buddy, where are you at? It was a little longer than I usually go, but I'm going to go Alex Noren at 7.
No. No.
We can both go there.
I know, but like it's not fun to both. Like if I'm blocking you, I'm going to block you with someone who's like good or not. Like sorry, short.
Whoa!
I know. I took it back immediately. He's good. He's very good, and I would have picked him had you not done so. You can have him though. You can have Noren and Louie. I think they're both. No, they're both. No. Just stick with it.
So
I think because you get mad at me for eternity if Noren wins. So no, I'm not letting you pivot off of that. You were locked in with Noren and Louie.
No. And whenever you got DJ with a 10-stroke head start back when we couldn't,
you shouldn't have lost the bobblehead the week before. I'm sorry. You know,
it was erroneous.
Sorry. Play better.
You picked Louie so many times on this show.
I have.
We both have.
No. Speaking of that, I'm considering. No, I'm not going to do that. Never mind.
Have the same too.
No. Oh boy. I kind of want to go Matt Fitzpatrick at the same number as Louie. They're both 24-1. His brother's in the field this week. Maybe a little bit of like a sibling rivalry thing where he wants to, stick it to his brother. Could do that.
I think they're buddies. I think I see photos of them all the time, like caddying or something.
No, it's a farce. They don't actually like each other. They hate each other, and Matty Fitz will be motivated to blow up this week.
I think honestly, the only bets I like this week are Louie. I might just go with Hovland, even though I don't like betting anyone at 11-1 ever. I don't care what it is. It's just not enough.
I know my second one. Sorry, I just figured it out. Fleetwood.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Yeah. So you have Louie and Noren. I have Fitzpatrick and Fleetwood. I am just going all Brits, all Muppets for this week to win the Valspar Championship. Brandon, any final thoughts for you before we close up shop for this Valspar podcast and send people off to fill out their lineups before lock tomorrow morning?
You can get a little bit different without getting too strange, and that might just be like taking a long look at Xander or Tyrrell Hatton or something.
I mean, Fleetwood is different without being
Fleetwood,
dumb.
yeah. So,
like, my ideal for DFS is finding ways to be different without being dumb, and I think I have that for this week. So that is, to me, very attractive for sure. That is all that we have here for the Valspar Championship. We'll get back to our regular recording schedule once we're not having golf played late in the day on Monday. So back to a regular schedule in the very near future. Of course, we also have plenty of other stuff here on the FanDuel Podcast Network. Specifically, if you're looking for some NCAA tournament takes, the men's side of things, go to the Covering the Spread podcast feed. It's also in the numberFire Daily Fantasy podcast feed, but whatever. It's on YouTube too. We were showing some numberFire stuff. So if you want to check it out on YouTube, go to FanDuel, the FanDuel YouTube page and look for the bracket breakdown with myself, Dr. Ed Feng, Bennett Corcoran, and Jessica Gridiron as well, all up over there. Brandon, if people have questions for you on Twitter, where can they find you there?
I'm at Goodula13, GDULA13.
You can get my definitive brat scene rankings by going to @JimSannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcast. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your PGA DFS lineups of the Valspar Championship. We'll talk to you once again next week. This has been the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast powered by numberFire.